I'd like to call
Hi.
this meeting to order of the Massage Therapy Advisory Board and the TDLR. And so may it officially begin. I'd like to start with the roll call for the board members. So let me ask if you just say present. Russell Rust,
Present.
Carolyn Guerin,
Present.
Antonio Gracias,
You're muted, sir.
His microphone's
like to-
off.
Hi.
this meeting to order. Okay. Kitra Taylor
Present.
and Kelly Morris.
Present.
Okay.
Sir, I think you missed Carol Willis.
And Carol Willis. I'm sorry, Carol.
That's okay. I'm gratefully present.
Okay, terrific. And so, do we have a quorum then, Anna?
Yes, sir, we do. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Well, we can proceed then with the agenda. Namely, I believe General Counsel has some information to share.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lauterstein. I'm Elizabeth Salinas Strittmatter, Assistant General Counsel on this program. I am going to see if I can share my screen. Here, give me 1 second. I'm going to tackle this morning your training for open meetings and some other statutes that apply to you all as board members. We do this training periodically just to keep you refreshed on the proper way to run, to notice a meeting, to respond to open records requests, all of those. All right, so Chair Lauterstein, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Awesome, thank you very much. Okay, so I am going to, I'm having a little bit of problems. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to try to go back to my screen. If you will just give me 1 second. We're having a lot of technical difficulties this morning, and I apologize for that. Let's see. See if I can get it this way. Can you all see my screen?
No.
Yeah, no.
I cannot.
You cannot. All right. Anna, can we go back to, can we maybe do public comment? I'm going to email this to you.
Of
See if
course.
you can get it working on your end, but we'll come back to this training. Let's go ahead and move on to public comments in the meantime.
Okay, Mr. Lauterstein, I went ahead and let Miss Gammis back into the meeting.
Okay. Ms. Gammis, you have 3 minutes to give your public comment. And the committee won't ask questions or discuss what you're saying. It's just you have the 3 minutes. And thank you very much.
Okay. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Some of these, it says I'm new. My name is Susan Gomez. My name is, I'm sorry, I'm a massage therapist and massage instructor and also a massage school, the Rockwell area. And is some of the TDR people here too, or is it just the board meeting?
We have both staff and board members here, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, just in case if I had any questions and I don't think you guys are supposed to speak anyways, but it's okay. Well, I just want to say a couple of things. Thank you for everybody's hard work. I know TDR works really hard on getting the massage portion of it. And of course, it's like a little minute thing from all the licenses they have out there. And I also want to say thank you for the new massage test. I think it has really been my school is small, but it's made a difference in our school. The testing center, the processes to get licensed and to be able to retake it if they need to, and so forth and so forth. So I really want to say thank you for that. And all the new LMTs that have come from my school, want to say thank you as well. Just a few things, I guess, just if everybody knows, the process for old LMTs. I say old LMTs, that's not the word. Students that didn't have a student permit, how do they get onto the new Texas test? Because I've had people reach out to me, and some of them, when I say old students, and I guess I'm meaning is the ones that don't have the student permit, because it is required in there to take the massage application, to take the massage test. You have to have a student number like chimed in, or student permit number. So I just didn't know if there was a way to get some information out there for students that would like to start taking the new one, and maybe some more information, spread the word, or some like there's like a PDF for the massage school program and all the information about the massage therapy. I was just going to ask to have some solid facts from you guys, so that when I do pass it on, I can just send them over PDF. Anybody's ever interested in a massage program or massage therapy, I send them that PDF. So that's really good information there. Other than that, I just want to say thank you and to introduce myself, and maybe one day I'll be on the board. So I've enjoyed being a massage therapist, and thank you guys for everything you do.
Thank you. Perfect timing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wasn't even timing it.
And do we have anyone else with public comment?
No, sir. The other public commenter I don't see online.
Okay.
So we can go ahead and go forward with the general counsel training.
Okay,
Okay.
very good.
Elizabeth Salinas, Strip Matter again. I'm going to try one more time to share my screen. If that does not work, Anna has received my training and she can do the sharing. But I'm a little bit stubborn and I like to try to see if I can pull this stuff up. Give me 1 second. It does not look like I can do it now. So Anna, if you'll go ahead and share that with us. This morning, as I said, I am doing the required training that you periodically receive for the Open Meetings Act, the Administrative Procedure Act, and the Public Information Act. So Anna, if you could go ahead, move forward. We might have a little bit of lag here. This is why I tried to open it again, because there might be a little bit of lag here. But Anna, if you can go ahead and click through, because there's 3 things on the slide. So we're going to first start off by talking about the Open Meetings Act. And as you all know, the Open Meetings Act is a statute that's designed to allow the public to see full transparency of government operations. So there is always a presumption or liberal construction of the statute to allow for the public to see what any given state agency, including TDLR, is doing at any given time. There are several things that the Act requires, and one of those things is that meetings, such as this one, be open to the public and that they be preceded by a public notice as to the time, place, and subject matter of the meeting. So we will send out an agenda, which we publish in the Texas Register. You can go ahead and move forward on it. We publish in the Texas Register. I'm sorry. Anna, when you get to each slide, can you just go ahead and click through it so everything can come up at one time for me? Thank you. Let me backtrack. Let's talk first about a quorum. A quorum, you heard Chair Lauterstein ask at the beginning, do we have a quorum? A quorum is a majority of the members of an advisory board or a committee, and that's fixed in rule or in statute. A governmental body includes advisory boards such as yourself, and you need to have a quorum in order for you to be able to take any official action. If we do not have a quorum at any publicly noticed meeting, you can still move forward and have a meeting, not take any official action. Okay. All right. And so meetings involve deliberations, and deliberations are discussions of government body like advisory board about business that is within the realm of what that board or committee is designed to work for. So we call it jurisdiction. Any issues that are under the jurisdiction of a committee or a board, when you all talk about those things in a publicly noticed meeting, Those are referred to as deliberations. We can go to the next slide. All right, so when does a meeting occur? Well, you heard me mention that a meeting occurs whenever there is a quorum, when there's a deliberation, and when we have engaged in a public notice of the time, date, location, subject matter of the meeting of the meeting, and we do that to the general public. How does TDLR issue that to the general public? Anna, you can go to the next slide, please. Go ahead and click. Keep clicking. One more. All right. No, please go back. All right. TDLR provides this, as I said a couple minutes ago, in the form of an agenda. We file that notice, the Texas Secretary of State, and we do it at least 7 days before the meeting. And it has to be posted online by both the Texas Secretary of State and TDLR. So if notice is not issued, that presents a problem in terms of moving forward, and it probably will require a resetting of the meeting. So we are very strict about deadlines for all of our materials to make sure that we have everything over to if y'all please mute. Oh shit. Thank you. So we're just having all kinds of issues this morning. I really apologize for this. So you cannot engage as you heard the commenter say, I'm not sure if you can even comment on anything that I say. She was absolutely correct. Her comment was not publicly noticed on the agenda, so we cannot talk about anything that is raised that is not on the agenda. That includes things that are talked about in open meetings, in public meetings, and that includes things that are done by comment. So if it's not on the agenda, we can receive comment, but we cannot comment on it. If a board member were to bring up a subject that is not on the agenda, we also couldn't comment on that particular subject. So remember that the key to the Open Meetings Act is transparency. Transparency at all times, not just in the operation of the government, but in the way we conduct our meetings and the way that we hold our deliberations or our discussions. All right, so a lot of people often ask, Anna can go to the next slide. What about social functions, conventions, workshops? What do we do there? So here's the question. Keeping in mind that a meeting occurs whenever there's a quorum of a governmental body and you talk about anything that is within the governmental body's jurisdiction, can you ever meet in an informal setting without violating the Open Meetings Act? The answer is yes, but there are caveats to that. You can engage in conversations that are incidental to the event, but the discussion will be subject to the Open Meetings Act if a quorum of members is involved and the members engage in a discussion or make decisions about board or committee decision or take formal action. Okay, next slide, Anna, please. Okay, so the key points to remember are any situation occurring outside of a properly noticed meeting in which a quorum of members is present or engaged in a discussion has to be could potentially be a problem if it is not properly noticed. So if you were at a meeting outside of a properly noticed TDLR meeting like the one we're in today, be aware of those situations. Notice if you're around a quorum of the other board members and notice what the subject matter of the conversation is. So do not engage in substantive conversations relating to board or committee business or policy when there is a quorum and you are outside of an officially noticed and scheduled meeting. But then we have this fun thing called the walking forum. And what is the walking forum? Go ahead and go to the next slide. That occurs when there are fewer than a quorum of members engaged in a discussion about official business. And then you communicate those discussions to other members. How does that happen? You might have a group, fewer than a quorum of members participate in a communication, say an email exchange. And then one of the members of the group that had that conversation, you have a subsequent conversation with other members of the advisory board that were not involved in the original conversation. So you're making them aware of the conversation that you had with less than a quorum. Let's look at the next slide. So how does this happen? Can I get the next slide? Yeah. On a 5-member advisory board, 2 members exchange phone calls and emails expressing thoughts in an upcoming rule change and exchange research. One of the board members forwards that. All right, so that is a walking quorum. Do not ever forward conversations when you have been involved in a conversation about board business outside of a quorum. Quorums can occur, next slide please. Quorums can occur during conference calls, video conferences, hallway, emails, text messages, and other new technologies. Also be aware of social media, Facebook, X, which is used to be Twitter, Instagram, any of the social media where there is a possibility that you could potentially reach a quorum. That could potentially be a walking quorum, and you need to be aware of that and try to avoid those situations if at all possible. So what are your best practices? All right, you should not meet in small groups to discuss board business and then communicate those discussions to other members. Send emails or text messages to a quorum of members regarding official business. And this is true even if the email or the text message is individually addressed to each member. So even if it's an individual email rather than a group email, you still potentially have a walking quorum. And so we ask you to avoid that. And again, social media. Don't post on social media about board business if there's a likelihood that a quorum of members could see or engage in discussions about that subject. And don't ask a quorum of members, even on an individual basis, for their feedback or their comments on board or committee business outside of a public meeting. That is actually called polling, and it is conducting an informal vote on an issue that's before the board. So best practice is to avoid that as well. Okay, Anna, we have our next slide. All right, guidelines for open sessions. As we talked about, you're limited to specific items on the agenda. During public comment, you can listen, can't engage with the commenter. And a member of the board or the public can raise a subject not on the agenda. At the end of the meeting, we always ask, what are the subjects of the next meeting that you'd like to discuss? That would be an opportunity for you to then put a subject that was commented on by the public or that you're interested in talking about on the agenda for the next meeting. So you ask us to put that on the agenda, and we'll have deliberations about whether it is or isn't appropriate for the agenda. That is how you get things on the agenda for the next meeting. And that is how you do it in line with an open session. All right. Let's see. All right. To avoid violating the act on the basis of insufficient notice. So if you have somebody who said, no, you guys didn't do what you needed to provide timely and sufficient notice of the board meeting that you're going to have today or next week or next month. Again, we need to best practices, limit discussions to what's on the agenda. And this is super important. A lot of our boards, including you all, talk about issues that are meshed together. They are linked, but you have to have notice of derivative issues on the agenda in order to talk about them. So you should avoid allowing your discussions on a specific agenda item to go off course into new issues that have not been noticed to the public. Best practice is, again, not to respond to public comment, and best practice is, again, to let us know what you'd like to see on an agenda in the future. Okay, Anna, we're good with that one? All right. Are there penalties? Yes, there are penalties for Open Meetings Act violations. These are civil and criminal. Civil remedies are that any interested person, including a member of the media, can petition to stop actions that are taken in violation of the Open Meetings Act. And the statute also states that any actions taken in violation of the act are voidable. So court can come in and say, you couldn't do that. You're not allowed to do that. Whatever decision you made, you can't do that. All right, and there's also criminal penalties for violations of the Open Records Act. If you knowingly participate in a walking quorum, or you knowingly participate in a meeting that is closed to the public that should have been a properly noticed open meeting, you're subject to misdemeanor criminal penalties, and those are fines of $1 to $500, confinement in county jail for 1 to 6 months, or both the fine and jail time. We have never had that problem on our board. I think that's in part because we do this training frequently to keep you refreshed on it. And I don't anticipate we'll have any problems in the future, but just needed to let you know that there are civil and criminal penalties when there's a violation of the act that are possible. All right, so now we are going to move on. You can go ahead and move past that slide, Anna. These are resources if you would like to get more information about open meetings. OAG does an amazing training that's very comprehensive. They also do an open meetings handbook that's available online. And of course, you can read the government code that'll specifically give you the law. But if you'd like to get more information, I would recommend going to the Attorney General's website and looking at both their video training and their open meetings handbook. That will answer a lot of questions that you have. And of course, if you have any other questions, you are always welcome to call me and I can answer any questions that you may have about the statute. Okay, Anna, we're going to move on to the Administrative Procedures Act. The Administrative Procedures Act, also known as the APA, establishes minimum standards of practice and procedure for state agencies, and it also describes, I'm looking at the wrong, you're right, Anna, I'm not right, and also provides public participation and transparency during the rulemaking process. So again, you're going to see this theme, openness and transparency in everything that we do in relation to the massage therapy program and any program that TDLR has regulatory authority over. We always want to do this in a very uniform way. We want to do it in a way that's consistent with other state agencies and their practices and procedures. And we always want to allow public the opportunity to comment on our rulemaking processes and draft rules. So the guiding statute that we operate under is the Administrative Procedure Act, or the APA. All right, so APA in relation to rules, we talk about statute and rules, and there's a difference between the two. Statute is determined by the legislature. The legislature provides us with the authority to make rules that relate to the running of the program. All right, and so the rule is a statement of general applicability made by a state agency that implements, interprets, or prescribes law or policy, or describes the procedure or practice requirements of a state agency. So within the massage therapy program, we have the statute that controls, that sets up the regulatory framework, and then we have the rule that actually provides the regulatory framework of the minimum standards that licensees must adhere to in order to remain licensed and to be operating in compliance with your statute. All right, so you can go ahead and change that. Rules do not involve the internal workings of the agency, and rules do not involve things that are not affecting private rights or procedures. All right, and when we talk about rulemaking, you can do rulemaking in regards to creating new rules, amendments to existing rules, and we can also repeal existing rules if we no longer need them. Okay, so what are our sources for rulemaking? They are legislative changes. So when we have a legislative session, if changes are made to a statute, we will then go into implementation of the statute, and that might include some legislative changes indirectly into rule to be in compliance or to be in conformity with the statute. Rulemaking can also come from advisory boards, TDLR staff, from the 4-year rule review, or for rule petitions. And rule petitions can be submitted by any person in the state of Texas that says, I'd like you to consider a rule on the following subject. And then we have to respond whether we're going to accept that rule petition or whether we're not going to accept that rule petition. And there's a whole procedure laid out for how rulemaking for regards to rule petitions works. All right, so as I said, any interested person can submit a rule. But what does that mean? Any interested person? It means Texas resident, a business entity in the state of Texas, a governmental subdivision of Texas, so another state agency or entity, governmental entity, a public or private organization that is not an agency but is located in Texas. So the commonality is you have to have roots in Texas in some way, shape, or form. You're either a person, a business entity here, a government subdivision here, or a public or private organization here. Anybody who has an interest in a rule and meets at least one of these criteria can submit for petition. So what does the rulemaking process look like? It is a very involved, very lengthy process. Rulemaking can take, depends if we're doing an emergency rulemaking, we can probably get it done 3 to 4 months, depending on how fast we have to do it. Normal rulemaking can take as long as a year, sometimes 2 years. It just depends on the rule that's being worked on, the depth of the rule, the breadth of the rule, and how much we're putting into the actual draft rule. So you'll see here, this is the process. You go from your rule idea, and then we have an internal review that's very extensive here at the agency. We look at the rule, we figure out what is the reason for it, why do we need it, what is it trying to accomplish, or what is it trying to fix, and then we have to actually send our draft rules over to the governor's office before we even present them to you all as the advisory board. We do a first advisory board meeting where we present the draft rule. You all will make a decision when we present you the rules of whether to go ahead and publish in the Texas Register or whether you want additional changes to the draft. So again, going back to our open meetings, you would have to have a quorum. You guys would be involved in a deliberation. All of this is done in the open, and it's designed to allow maximum input by you all and by the public. So if you decide to go ahead and publish in the Texas Register, then the public has 30 days to review. Then all of those comments will come to us. And then we will have a second advisory board meeting where we will present to you the proposed rule. We will present to you the comments, and then you all will decide whether there needs to be further drafting of the rule or whether it's ready to be proposed to the commission. So somebody will make a motion if you're satisfied with the rule to take it over to the commission. Then the commission takes it, decides whether they do want to go ahead and adopt it. If they do that, we file the notice with the Texas Register, and there will be an effective date of the rules that are in that rule packet. So an extremely lengthy process that we have very good procedures here in the General Counsel's office for making this happen. But we like to present this to you and to the public so you understand rulemaking doesn't necessarily happen on a dime. It involves dozens of people and 2 state agencies. So the Texas Register and us and the governor's office. All right, so let's go to the next. So what is the rule process? How do we do this? All right, so if your program is on a 4-year rule review, which it is, anytime we do the 4-year rule review, there's a notice of intent to review. There's 30 days to comment on the existing rules. We take those comments, we make a recommendation to the commission, and all we're doing is recommending whether to adopt the current rules as they exist, if there's reason to continue to keep them in effect. The commission decides yes or no on that, and then we will go to our advisory boards and say, okay, we've done the rules for your rule review. The rules have been re-adopted by the commission. Now let's look at specific changes that were brought up during the 4-year rule review and whether we have an ongoing interest in creating rules, amending rules, or somehow altering rules to go in line with the concerns that were brought up during the 4-year rule review. All right, so that again is another very lengthy process. So if you can go to the next slide on it. So if you would like more information, again, OAG has great resources, Office of the Attorney General, that you can look at. The Secretary of State that the Texas Register is under, they have a great role in making. So you can also go to their website. And of course, if you have a specific question about rulemaking, feel free to email me, and I will do my best to answer your question. All right, so let's move on to the last very important statute we're going to talk about, which is our Public Information Act. And our Public Information Act is, again, transparency. It's designed to allow the public to have access to just about any document, record, or other information that relates to official business. It allows the public to have access to those things with some exceptions. So what is public information? Public information is any electronic communication created, transmitted, received, or maintained on any device if it is in connection with official agency business. And again, the PIA, that's what we call it, the PIA is liberally construed, just like the Open Meetings Act, in favor of granting requests of the information, in favor of granting access. So we can go to the next slide, Anna. All right, before I talk about this, I want to talk a little bit about devices. So the caveat that I would give you for devices is if you're talking about official business on your personal device, potentially, if we receive an open records request, that device will be subject to us pulling the information relating to government business off of your device. So I highly suggest that you remember that when you are using your personal devices. All right, so what happens when we receive an open records request? Open records requests have to be in writing. That's the first rule, must be in writing. Sometimes as advisory board members, you all will receive written requests for records from TDLR. So what do? You need to go ahead and forward that request to the General Counsel's office here at TDLR, to the Open Records team. And if we ask you for any records that might be responsive to that records request, we ask that you please respond to us as soon as possible, because we need to respond to our request for open records quickly, but not later than 10 business days after receiving the request. And always remember, we cannot ask somebody why they want the records. We can only ask for clarification, and the request for clarification comes from the General Counsel Open Records team, which is led by our wonderful open records attorney, Mia Settle. So you might get an email from our open records folks, or you may have in the past, and it would be, hey, we've received an open records request to this subject. Do you have anything that's responsive? And then you would send that back to us. All right, so let's go on to the next one. What are some general rules? Again, presume that the record is going to be released. That's the best presumption you can operate under. Except we'll redact records in compliance with the Public Information Act. And what does that mean? That means that we black out or we white out certain information. What are examples of that information? Personally identifying information, personal health information. So PI and FI, that's what we call them, dates of birth, most email addresses, driver's license numbers, license plates, VIN records, credit card numbers, HIPAA information, and other medical information that is protected by the Privacy Act. So even though there is a presumption of openness, there is also protections that are built into these records to ensure that we are safeguarding the identity of the folks who are involved in those conversations when the identity refers to particularly identifying information that can be used in a not so great way by not great people. All right, so we again have some additional resources for you that again come from OAG. And we also have our own open records policy. It's on our website if you'd like to look at that and review it. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to let me know. So with that, I will conclude my slides, but I will also open the floor for any questions that you all might have about any of the 3 statutes that I talked about here today. Okay, wonderful. So if you don't have any questions now, if you think of any later, just let me know. Happy to answer those. And I will turn it back to Chair Lauterstein.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I believe it's now time to go through staff reports.
I'm
And
sorry,
so,
sir. We need to go back to
oh,
item D on the agenda, the minutes.
oh, okay, yes, you're right, I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So, I want to know if people have had,
Oh, you're muted. I think you hit a button or something, maybe. There you
sorry.
go. Thank you.
This is to approve or make amendments to the minutes of the last advisory board meeting. Are there any uh, questions or comments regarding these minutes? If you approve the minutes, please raise your hand.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
I second it, Tony Gracia.
Okay, good. Russell Rust moved to approve the minutes. Let's consider the minutes as approved. Thanks very much, Anna.
Thank you,
Have a
sir.
vote, David.
Okay, well, now that that's been seconded, shall we have a vote?
Yes, sir.
Do this as raising your hand, if you don't mind. Okay. Very good.
The motion
We
passes,
approve
sir.
the
Thank you.
minutes and are ready to move on. Okay, Anna?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Sure, sure. So let us move on to the staff reports, beginning in order with the licensing division. Leonard Rivas, please.
Good morning, advisory board members. My name is Leonard Rivas. I'm the licensing manager for the massage therapy program. You have a copy of our report in front of you. I will briefly give you numbers for the third quarter for each of the license types that we process here in the licensing division. At the end of the third quarter, for massage therapists, we issued 1,197 new licenses. We renewed 9,388 licenses. And the population at the end of the third quarter for massage therapists was 27,381. For massage therapy instructors, we issued 117 new licenses. We renewed 449 instructor renewals. And at the end of the third quarter, the population is 1,542. For massage establishments, we issued 465 new licenses at the end of the third quarter. We renewed 704 renewals. And the population at the end of the third quarter for massage establishments was 2,839. That concludes my report for the licensing division. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? No. Well then, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, let's move on to the Education and Examination Division. I believe that will be Michael Strand or someone speaking for him.
Good morning, Chair, Advisory Board members. My name is Rebecca Armas with the Education and Examination Division. I will be pinch hitting for Michael Strong this morning.
Thank you, Ms. Armas.
Of course. As you can see here, we've got some statistics for you. Nothing on this first page is the report's kind of similar. You know, we've got continuing education numbers and the jurisprudence exam, but I'd like to direct your attention to the next page. If you could scroll on it for me, please. We've added, and I apologize, I'm not sure if you were able to get that ahead of time, but I'd like to show you our statistics for our massage therapy examination that we are administering now, that we started in February. So as of July 31st, as you can see, we have a total of 332. Now these are attempts at the examination, and we've got a 58.7%. You'll start seeing it's going to fluctuate a little bit. I wouldn't be alarmed. I know that, you know, a lot of folks in our other boards kind of question us, well, you know, what is a good pass rate? And we will tell you that as a licensing entity, you know, we are the regulatory body. So the pass rate is the pass rate. It's not similar to an examination that you would take for a college course or anything to that nature, because what we're doing is providing an assessment to make sure that somebody is minimally competent to be safe to work on the public. So, these examination scores are per attempt, and we just want to make sure that, we're going to be providing these to you. Again, we don't have the full fiscal year yet. These are as the end of July. Another thing I wanted to share along with you is we do offer the translation in simplified Chinese that started in June. And we've seen an uptake in those examinations as well, as far as candidates being able to register and take those exams. So we're real excited about offering them in that language. And we'll be looking into other translations in future examinations. So that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, Russell Ross?
Yes, ma'am. My understanding with PSI, and I've not quite do it. When will it be availability for each school to get the results or the sectional results so that we know how to adjust our curriculums appropriately for the time that we're spending in each section? I know the hours are relevant, but then again, we have some sections that are more important, like such as the massage tech section, which consists of 40%, because that's what our curriculum, or that's what the state 500 hours, 40% of that is massage. I know it's early. I was just wondering, in the other question, is that something we're going to reach out to PSI for, or will we go through you and get the information from PSI from TDLR?
Mr. Rest, what we're doing is we're working out the programming. It's being developed where we will have a link on the TDLR massage page for schools to go ahead and click on, and you'll be able to pull those reports. We're still working out the details, but it is being worked on along with PSI.
Yeah, no problem. I know it's early. I was just kind of curious as to, so now with the link, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, we're hoping by the end of the year, it'll be up and running and you'll be able to see it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the Customer Service Division. And I'd like to call on Patricia Martinez Castellan.
Good morning, advisory board members. My name is Patricia Martinez. I'm a customer service manager. And these are our statistics for today. It seems like we had a reduction in contacts the beginning of this fiscal year in comparison to last, and then they did begin to increase in April and slowly going back down. At this time, we are only filtering for license status, and we are coordinating with our licensing division as well as other divisions to resolve inquiries in a timely manner. Other than that, those are all the statistics that I have for today. If anybody has any questions, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Rust.
Yes. As far as customer service goes, is there any kind of record or how you go about it as to the questioning or what people are asking as an individual in the massage? And also with the AMTA, I get many questions regarding how to test, let's just say somebody did not have a student permit. It's not very clear. Also, the people that have grandfathered in taking the course prior to 2007, they're not required to take the 500 hours to be eligible for a license. And some of those things are not being answered very well at customer service, which that may be something that is sent to different departments in order for that to be answered. Or are the other departments getting back to those respondents, or does that go to customer service for them to respond back to the person inquiring about the information?
So normally, yes, we would be the first point of contact because the customer does look to just call in seeking out that information, but it is on a case-by-case basis. Once we do get those inquiries, we do coordinate with our interdivisions to get those inquiries answered as soon as possible.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Thank you very much. So let's move on to the report from the Enforcement Division. Victoria Meza, please.
Good morning. Yes, advisory board members. My name is Victoria Mesa. I'm a prosecutor for the Enforcement Division, and I'll present enforcement's report to you today. Thank you all for being here. I'll be covering some key statistics and case highlights. You can see the statistics for the program through July of fiscal year 2023 and all of fiscal year 2022. As you can see, of the 1,017 massage therapy cases that were opened in 2023, we've already closed 936 of those. So our percentage of closed cases for this fiscal year is quite good. I've added a couple of case highlights to your packet to provide examples of 2 complaint cases that were resolved by department staff, if you care to review those. But that's pretty much enforcement's report, and I'm available if you have any questions. Yes, I see a hand raised.
Russell?
Yeah, what is the new status in the when you do a license search where it says non-renewable? What does that term mean?
Where are you doing your search, sir? In person?
Well, when I search, let's just say I search license, massage therapist, students, whatever the category is for the Dallas area, you'll see where a license may be revoked, but it says non-renewed now. And that's a new term that I hadn't seen before. One second, let me just double check and make sure I'm saying the word correctly.
You may want to refer to licensing on that. I'm not sure. That's not it's not necessarily a term that enforcement's putting in. So I don't want to speak out of turn here.
Okay, no problem. I waited for enforcements because I kind of thought y'all were the ones putting the term up, non-renewable.
Blame for everything, Mr. Rust.
I'm sorry?
I said we get blamed for everything.
Well, but y'all are the most important division. And
Okay,
I'm
well,
not
I
going to
like
say
that.
examination and education and all the rest of them, but the enforcement division is something that is very important for us cleaning up our profession, getting the illicit businesses done. And I really appreciate the work that's being done. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Russ. Linda Rivas with the Licensing Division. I will try and help answer your question. So at TDLR, an individual has 3 years from the time the license expires to renew that license. After that 3 years, the status goes into non-renewable and the individual must reapply.
All right. And they're going to have to retake the test as well, correct?
That's correct, yes.
That's what I was thinking it meant, but I wasn't for sure. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, you're welcome.
Okay, very good. That's helpful. All right, well, thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the Compliance Division, please. That would be Jerry Gonzalez.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jerry Gonzalez, and I'm with the Compliance Division, formerly Regulatory Program Management. My report's really short today. We have been part of the bill implementation team, the BIT team as we call it, to implement changes from recent legislative bills that have passed. We've been working a lot with the other divisions in answering routine questions. And as Mr. Russ was told earlier by customer service, everything's a case-by-case basis, but customer service reaches out to the individual programs or ourselves in the compliance division to try to answer questions, as she mentioned, in a timely manner that are not a regular routine, how do I renew or how do I apply type deal. So we all work collectively and help each other within our divisions. Like with enforcement, they're the important ones, but we all gather the information for them to be able to process and go. So we work as a unit, just another cog in the wheel. And as far as outreach, back in June, we attended the International Congress of Aesthetics and Spa Show in Dallas. Although it was more for the esthetician and the cosmetology program, there was a lot of questions regarding massage and operating and performing massage therapy within the spas and stuff. So there was a lot of people out there for those 2 days they were there. And it was very informative, both for us, and we were able to talk to a lot of people. Other than that, like I said, if you all have any meetings, conferences, associations, something that you would like for us to attend, please reach out to me and we'll make arrangements to try to be there. I'll take any questions if anyone has any comments or questions.
Any comments or questions? Russell?
I really appreciate the hard work of the compliance department at TDLR. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Russell. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, now to hear from the Field Inspections Division, Heather Williams, please.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Heather Williams. I'm a liaison with the Field Inspection Division, and I'm going to provide our update. The first thing is our statistics. For fiscal year 2022, we inspected 1,435 massage establishments. For fiscal year 2023, we've inspected 1,129 thus far. I don't have the numbers for August yet, but that's how many we inspected for fiscal year 2023. For fiscal year 2022, we inspected 66 massage therapy schools. And for fiscal year 2023, we inspected 54 thus far. Next is our most common violations found during an inspection for fiscal year 2023. The first one is Rule 11790Q, failed to notify each client of the name, mailing address, telephone number, and web address for the department for purposes of directing complaints to the department on 1, a written contract, 2, a sign prominently displayed in the primary place of business, 3, on a bill of service, or 4, another written or documented method. And the second most common violation written was Rule 11791A. A licensee shall provide an initial consultation to each client before the first massage therapy session and obtain a signature of the client on the consultation document. The next thing is our current project, and this was a big project. In July of 2022, TDLR Field Inspection Division began production use in the field of a new system that allows inspectors to track their inspections electronically. The new method, which we're calling e-inspections, allows us to serve licensees better, increase our efficiency, and standardize the data we collect for each inspection. As of November of 2022, Field Inspections has fully transitioned to using e-inspection. In November of 2021, Field Inspections began development of a risk-based inspection process for the massage therapy program in accordance with TDLR Sunset Review and legislation passed during the 87th regular legislative session. The Field Inspection Division began conducting risk-based inspections in the massage therapy program this fiscal year. And that concludes our updates. Do y'all have any questions?
I'd like to ask the question, David Lauterstein. What does risk-based indicate then?
Risk-based inspections, the computer analyzes to see how many DTEs were written, direct enforcement violations, or if there were just corrections. And the computer uses an algorithm to determine which ones we should inspect before the others.
Yeah. Okay, great. Russell, Mr. Rust?
Yes, thank you. Am I hearing right that there's actually going to be an online inspection that's going to be able to be done in the future? And I was just curious how that would be an efficient type of inspection if the inspector's not actually looking in the facility to see for violations, let's just say in sanitation or some of those things that would need a physical sight or vision to be a violation.
I'm not sure if you're talking about virtual inspections.
Virtual, I'm sorry, I didn't have the right word. Yes, ma'am, virtual inspections.
Okay, we do virtual inspections for some programs and not others, depending on so in the barber and cosmetology program, we have done virtual inspections for small facilities that aren't offering nail services. So it really depends on the facility. It depends on the previous violations that were written up, if that facility
Yes,
qualifies.
but that hasn't been implemented for the massage program as of yet, has it?
No, sir, it has not.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate
Yes,
it.
sir. You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, let me call on the executive office. Jessica Escobar, please.
Thank you, presiding officer and members for joining us this morning. I kind of wanted to follow up on that comment on the virtual inspections. That's not something we have on the radar at this time, or at all for the massage program. We don't plan to go forward with any virtual inspections. I think that the main discussion with that e-inspection was our system that they're able to use when they're out in the field and kind of documenting it, everything. E-inspections is not a plan. Or rather, that's the name that we have for our system, but virtual inspections for the massage program is not something we anticipate doing for the massage program. So Jessica Escobar, Chief of Staff for TDLR. I appreciate y'all coming this morning. It's been a bit since we met last, October 2021. So we've got 2 years almost under our belt since we've last seen you. We've had a bit of changes since the last time we met. We've got 2 new commissioners, Commissioner Lori High and Commissioner Sujit Drakstrom have joined us since then. We also had some changes in our executive leadership. Brian Francis retired in January 31st of last year, 2022. David Gonzalez also retired at the end of last year. And Mike Arismendez, our Deputy Executive Director, was appointed as Executive Director last year as well. Christina Kaiser, who was Deputy Executive Director over Compliance and Enforcement Divisions, has now been promoted to Senior Executive Director. So she's still with us and still maintains all of that historical knowledge. So as a legislative update, last time you met with us, we were just coming out of legislative session. We had just finished sunset, been continued for 12 more years. We just came out of legislative session again, finished the 88th legislative session in May. And so now we are busy implementing bills, which keeps us tied up quite a bit. Our staff is busy throughout the agency looking at what we need to be doing. We've got people from all over the division. Right now, we currently have 30 bill or almost 30 bill implementation teams. And this isn't just, we're not looking at new programs, for example. We're looking at a variety of bills because we start tracking probably up to 400, 500 bills at the beginning of the legislative session. And of course, those whittle down throughout session. And these bills that we're looking at have a direct impact on us, on our licensees. So some of these range on from administrative items like rulemaking, procurement, information technology, to actually, we've got one new program and then other ones that are directly program based. So that's what we're working on, and that's what our staff is involved in this currently right now. The next big thing that came out of legislative session for us was our licensing system. We were appropriated $32.9 million for the development and procurement of a new licensing system. This is a huge win for us, but for our licensees more importantly, and our staff. This will allow us to be more efficient, and it will allow our licensees to have better access and have a quicker access to renewals, licenses, and the information tied to their licenses. So this is going to be a humongous undertaking. Unfortunately, it will not be fast. It will not be easy, but we are ready for the project. We've got the resources behind us and the subject matter expertise we're working with to help us make this project a success. It'll probably take us a couple of years to get it going, but once we do, it will be a real game changer, especially for those licenses that are currently on paper only. So we're very excited about this project, and if you have any other questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, do we have any questions or comments? No. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, that ends the staff reports. And I'd like to ask if there are any recommendations for agenda items for the next board meeting. I have one related to me by a school, and I'm not sure whether this would be for the board meeting or for one of the subcommittees. But the request is to update Palms to allow reporting hours to decimals within 2 places. Right now, it currently only does whole numbers, and evidently that's problematical for some schools. So we'll take that to whomever it might be relevant as an agenda item, or to one of the staff members to consider. Any other agenda items proposed for the next board meeting? Okay, so can we discuss a
Rust.
date and time
I
for the
believe
next?
Mr. Rust has a question, Mr.
Oh,
Lauterbach.
yes, Russell.
Yes, that was going to be my question. Is this going to be something that's going to be more frequent than 2 years on the board meeting? Is this not something that we need to do each year? And I do understand going through the legislative session that kind of delays that, but it seems like it's been quite a while. Is it more when TDLR, is this a requirement to have a board meeting each year, I guess, was my main question.
Mr. Rest, this is Jessica Escobar. So we try not to bring you all together. There's not a lot to meet on. The great thing that came out of legislative session was the ability to meet virtually. So that allows us to meet as you all need to. But 2 years is a long time. You are correct. We try to bring you all together when there's something to do. We're also happy to meet at least once a year so we can bring you updates on what's going on with programs, what's going on with staff, and that's certainly something we can do more frequently. I know you'll have some rulemaking going on in the future, but we try not to bring you together because we respect your time if you don't need to meet.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
One other
Yeah.
follow-up on that. I've heard that is TDLR still in the process of finding a vendor to implement our new going away from the PALM system, which doesn't quite meet the needs of the massage profession. I knew they were appropriated the funds. Last I spoke with someone, they were looking at vendors, and I didn't know where the process of that that is happening.
So I don't have the full details on that one, but I know we're in the implementation process and we are transitioning away, I believe. But I can get Ford or Ray to follow up with you on that question directly.
Okay. Thank you.
Or there's Rebecca.
Looks like Rebecca's on too. She might have something to add.
Hi, good morning, Rebecca on West Education and Examination. The transition would be when we move into the bigger and better licensing system that was mentioned. Those are the newer and improvements that will be made to PALMs. As far as the other statement about maybe adjusting PALMs, I will get with the team and they'll reach out to the education worker.
Excellent, excellent. So does that answer your question, Mr. Rust?
Yes, David, thank you.
Okay, sure. Well then, thank you very much. And shall we discuss a meeting then in about a year?
We're probably going to be doing some bill implementation. So once we get that timeline going, I'll pull the board members to let y'all know what dates are good for us.
Okay, so we won't set it up at this time, but we trust you completely.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
All right, very good. And so that if there's nothing else, that does conclude the meeting. And I would like to thank Anna and all the staff of TDLR. I'd like to thank all the board members and all those people out there who are watching this this advisory board meeting. So if there is no objection, it is time then to adjourn the meeting. It is now 11:04 a.m. And
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
yes, is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you, Russell Rust. Motion made the first movement, and Antonio Gracia made the second. And so we'll consider the meeting adjourned. Thanks very much, everybody, for your participation.